Hello, I'm Elaine Stevens, and I want to welcome you to Art Beat. Hello and welcome to Art Beat, where art is the heartbeat of Ocean Springs. I am your host, Elaine Stevens, and today you're going to meet an artist with a lot of heart. We are so blessed to have him in the South Mississippi area. His name is Grady Byrd, and he is internationally acclaimed and award-winning, so just stay tuned for exciting surprises. Well, you've just seen a little bit of Grady Byrd, but there's a lot of him, only in height as well as breadth and spirit, and he's a remarkable artist.
Thank you.
And you started when you were a mere child. You said you've been drawing all your life.
All my life. The only reconciliation I have was my third grade teacher telling me to redraw that. She thought I traced one in third grade, so that's what they tell me, so I guess I got to start then.
So this was a natural ability that came to you as a child?
Well, this was BT before television out in the country when I was bored and had nothing else to do, and between chores I drew everything I could, and the only thing we had was cardboard boxes and window shades that I pulled off the window to draw on. And I got the feeling then to do drawings on different textures. And some of my work is done on some real rough textured paper that you really wouldn't think about drawing on.
So
and I get a special effect from that.
The tools that you use in order to get this effect, I mean, they must be extremely special types of things.
Well, they're not really. They're just very ordinary. I'm a very cheap artist. I don't do oils. I'm colorblind. So that's why I do black and white.
I read that about you, and I wasn't sure if that was a marketing tool or if that was for real.
Well, I have to work extra hard to compete with color. I have to have good subjects, I have to have good draftsmanship and balance and composition and all that to compete with color. So I have to work extra special.
Well, when you see Grady's work, you look at it and you really are sort of overwhelmed by the detail of it. Now, you're working on a piece that I understand is going to be the most detailed sketch or drawing in history.
Yeah. Well, if someone wants to dispute it, they're welcome to it.
Good.
I'm in a place now that I don't have to do portraits for food,
okay.
So I can spend time and do my favorite subject. Every artist dreams of the perfect picture, and I was able to come across this, what I consider for myself the perfect composition, subject matter, and everything. So that's the reason I'm spending extra time and special attention to it, because I think it's really a perfect picture. All artists dream about finding that one picture, and photographers also. They spend their whole life trying to find that one picture.
So tell me about this picture. I mean, what makes it so special?
I was commissioned by George Bush's Sr. Zapata Company. It was an oil company, then turned into fish. It was an oil boom and bust rather than in the 80s. And I was commissioned to do this, and it was so picturesque. The scenes out there were so picturesque. And I've taken over 200 or 300 shots. I can work all my life on this. It looks like I'm working all my life on this one. But I just love the workmanship and this openness in the air and the sunlight, which is terrific out there.
Industry.
Yes, it is. It's come on a little controversy now, but when we went out, we took a Sports Illustrated writer with us, and every fish they catch comes down a conveyor belt, and he couldn't find one sports fish. So now they're after the fish that the sports fish feed on, and if they deplete that, they'd go out of business.
Right.
So there's two sides to every story, but hopefully, we'll get a happy medium in it.
Well, will Grady Byrd reveal the actual truth of his drawing, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think what I'll do, it's kind of hard to get people's attention to art anymore. A long time ago, I started signing my work as a hidden signature along with my main signature. So what I'm going to do is hide my signature in this drawing, and the first person that finds it, I'll give them $5,000.
Okay, I'm going to start looking right now. No, it's not really. Grady, I mean, there's so much to you, and I hope I do this interview justice because, you know, I walk in here, there's this tall, handsome, very handsome man. I hope the camera does you justice. And you have a whole world of art around you, and obviously there's a lot of spiritual depth to who you are because I see two very famous people that the world knows about, and if they don't, they've been living in a box somewhere. Pope John Paul II and Mother Teresa. Now, tell me about what got you started in doing those kinds of spiritual leaders.
Well, I was with my mother on her deathbed, and she was in a coma, and about that time, I was trying to think the nurses were so great. I was trying to think what I could give to them as a gift because they were so nice to her and so attentive. About that time, two nurses came in the door, and they said, aren't you the artist that did the painting for the prayer room? I said, yes, I am. And they said, what are you going to do for us? Just joking. And by that time, we'd washed my mother's hair and had a white towel over it. And I kind of saw a vision of Mother Teresa in that. And I thought, what a great gift to give to the nurses of somebody that's tended to the poor and the sick all their lives. And that's when I got interested in it and studied more about her. And it's a pretty good stretch for a Baptist preacher's boy to do that, I guess. But I was able to do that, and what I'm doing now is giving prints to her missions. There's 34 missions here in the United States, and I have one of the prints here I can show you, but I'm giving those every month to one of her missions. They had a convention in Peoria, Illinois years ago, and I gave everybody one then. And that's kind of, you know, that's kind of my dedication to her. And after that, agency saw my work from New Orleans and commissioned me to do the Pope after that. So it kind of fell in line.
Fell in line, but the likenesses, as we look around the room and see them, and I'm sure my editor will let the public see them, but it's just a remarkable sense of her character and her caring for children. And how were you able to capture that?
I wanted to show her likeness coming out of the dark gloom that she has to attend to the sick and dying every night. And if you notice, the picture is kind of dark in the background, but her face is illuminated. And I wanted to show that in her special attentiveness to children also too. I hoped I had captured her love and spirit in that.
Oh, you did. It's remarkable. And Pope John Paul II, who may soon be sainted, as I understand
yes,
it. So tell me about working on his portrait, because I mean, obviously you received something from doing this within yourself.
Well, every artist looks for inspiration, and I prayed a lot, and I think that, you know, came through. And I had a kind of a tight deadline on it, and I didn't have a lot of photographs to work from. And now what I wanted to do was show the audience something that they would visualize when they went to see him at a distance of him, you know, waving to the audience instead of just a real close-up picture.
Well, I love the way you include in both of those works other symbols of them, other portraits of them, if you would, almost sort of Monet type of, you know, kind of thing, impressionistic kind of thing.
I started that at Leavenworth magazine. I was assigned to do sports shorts, famous Marines that did certain sports, and I wanted to depict their portrait, main portrait, with a small picture of what they did, so you can look at them and find out just what it was. So I had to develop a style that would be compositionally woven into the main subject figure, and you can just look at people and tell what they are. So it's kind of a special, you know, technique, and I'm kind of proud of the technique that you see in most of these pictures. I call water black. It's original technique, it's original style, and it's kind of hard to do realism. And my main objective was trying to raise the awareness and acceptability of black and white art. And I think I've done that to some degree with...
to some degree, to some degree. Well, I have to tell you, it keeps you coming back and looking for more in each of the pieces that we are seeing here today in Grady Byrd's beautiful home. And we're coming back to Art Beat right after this. And welcome back to Art Beat. In case you have just joined us, we are chatting with the amazing Grady Byrd, whose drawings look so real and so lifelike. And of course, I'm totally entranced by the one that is behind us, which you have entitled
Boca Cheddar Blues.
Right. Amazing. I mean, that caught my eye immediately on the website. Tell me, you were raised in Boca Cheddar, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
After my mother and father had TB when I was 18 months old, and I had to be farmed out to her sister, which lived in Boca Cheddar, Mississippi. And this gentleman picked cotton with him. Matter of fact, he was retiring about the same time I started picking cotton with him. And he provided us entertainment. That's before iPods and boom boxes. He sang really great.
What did he do? I mean, he was singing.
Singing while he was picking cotton. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. And Robert Johnson, they said, when I wanted some tapes, when my daughter worked for a record company in L.A., he said, I don't know why he wanted that tape, because it sounds like somebody sitting in the middle of a cornfield. And this is a tribute to Robert Johnson, and also, you know, Otis Wallace also, because the purest form of art or music is doing it without an audience participation.
Okay.
And about 25 years later, I went back after I got a Marine Corps, and Otis was still there, and I took a photograph of him with a Polaroid. And 30 years later, I kept that picture and waiting for some material to do it on. Mm-hmm. And this is bark paper, and I did it with pencil and white gouache highlights. And I thought the paper just suited the subject a lot.
How long did it take you to do that?
I quit counting after about 100 hours.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And
it's a labor of love, obviously, because
it was,
the man's look, the look in his eye, the smile on his face, was filled with joy. He must have loved you as a young boy.
Well, we were pretty close, because, you know, in every farm, you know, when you're out in the farm, you're all together. You know, it's just one accord out there in the farm when you're toiling away. And I was able to enter it in a worldwide contest. The only way I entered it, the reason I entered, they said if it's good enough, we might, you know, present in a magazine later on. I didn't have an idea that I would win. And at the time, they accepted Giclée prints also, and not slides. That's the reason I entered it. But if I'd known there were 16,000 artists also in the whole world in it, I don't know if I would have entered it, but I was lucky to get top 10.
And you did, and you won, I know. I mean, we are so privileged to have you in our home area of Ocean Springs, and so close to us all. The picture that you did, the drawing that you did with your mother and what you described as your hyperactive child, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we were packing up to leave on her last visit, and this was the last minutes we had in her home before she had to go in a nursing home. And my daughter was on her lap, and I knew that was about 3 seconds, stay there. My mother was brushing her hair, and there was just a special, you know, moment there that we had, and I try to capture that later on.
Well, I see sadness in a lot of your work. Does it come from a place of sadness?
Not really. Every individual sees something different in a painting. And
maybe nostalgia, maybe something about a
it's like abstract art. Whatever you see in it is, you know, is fine. Yeah.
But the characters are so real, and they are almost like photographs. Now, the man that you called him
King of the Road.
King of the Road. There's a song like that, right?
Yeah, it sure is. Roger Miller. It sure is, yeah.
But this guy's decked out and with a hat that I've never seen before. Has tremendous detail on it. Tell us about him.
As people walk the country, they always kind of get a little publicly noticed before they do, and I was aware that he was coming in our area. He had walked all the way from something he wanted to do. He was a retired butcher in San Diego, walked all the way across the United States, all the way across to North Carolina and back to Mississippi. And I caught him right in front of Boulevard on Highway 90 and talked to him for a while. He was a free-spirited person. He wasn't a fanatic or nut. Right. He'd written songs and poetry, and I got to talk to him for days as he walked along the way.
Now, did you know that he was coming
yes,
this way?
Yes, it was pre-publicity, and you know how bicycle and walkers, on any kind of project, they kind of get pre-publicity, so you know they're in the area. But he's gonna write a book entitled My Little Walk, and about people that offended him and befriended him along the way. But he picked up this dog there in Missouri and called him Mo, and he had all kind of souvenirs, and he was just a really, really special, free-spirited guy to talk to.
What special people are surrounding you in your home here? You're never lonely, are you?
No, I'm not.
It shows. I mean, you have an enormous world of art around you. But now, of all these, what is your favorite?
I'd have to say Mother Teresa, because it was more inspired than probably anything else, and my mother and my daughter also. It's personal. Anything personal is more meaningful. Everything I do, I don't do incidental art or random art. I do significant and meaningful art. I don't do commercial art to sell, really. I've been fortunate enough at some of the top galleries in the South have sold my work, but I do it mainly for my own pleasure.
Now, a farm boy from Mississippi becomes this wonderful artist. I guess it was rather shocking to you when you were able to sell something that came out of your fingers.
Well, selling didn't mean that much. That doesn't denote you know, that you're good just because somebody buys it.
That's true.
And I wasn't about the money, but any kind of other publicity that I got was very, you know, very inspirational to me to keep doing it, because you know, you don't know you're on the right track till somebody else tells you you are. Yeah.
Well, it's obvious you are on the right track, and your subject matter is so varied, and I know that many people in South Mississippi have seen Grady's work, but what we're going to do when we come back after this next break is we're going to talk about his Marine Corps career and how he learned to draw the way he's drawing now. So stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this message. You are watching Art Beat, and my guest today is Grady Byrd. And as with all artists, even literary people like myself, I'm a writer, but I love to read the works of others, and you have a favorite artist, and you're a collector as well, it seems.
Yes, I do. This is Maxwell Parrish. This is his masterpiece that is a lithograph of his masterpiece. And I call this the decline of civilization because 1923, 1 in every 4 households had this on their wall.
Wow.
And you could have bought that in
How do you know
73. I read it. It's all in his biography. They keep a track of the prints. That this is a lithograph print. It's a process of every color you see is done in stone. And it has to be exact register. And I bought that print for $150. It's valued. Sotheby's sold one a couple months ago for $1,800, and you could have bought the original in '73 for, what did I say the original was? $55,000, and it sold in the year 2000 for $4 million. Okay. $4 million, and I just love his work because he's worked a mathematical equation into the composition of his work that when you look at his work you love it, but you really don't know why. It's really captivating, and he was well-rounded. He did poetry, did illustrations, and he's called, and he also did fine artwork also. It's kind of hard to bridge that gap between the illustrator and the fine artist, and that's what gave me inspiration to do that. I didn't want to be just an artist that did landscapes and still lifes, and Andrew White was another one of my artists that showed that that he could do something with just really innate objects. And so I said, well, I can do that. And it's a hard transition sometimes, and I was proud to be able to do that.
Well, I lost a bet over there about finding the signature, but I won this bet over here about Maxwell Parrish because he happens to be one of my favorite artists as well. This one's called Ecstasy.
Right.
And you are fascinated by the way it has been reproduced.
Right. This is a new technology that has helped us so much in the art world. It was established about 10 years ago. It's called a giclée print. It's a French word for spray, and it bridges the gap between the collectors that didn't really want to pay us for what our originals we thought was worth, and also the kind of a cheap offset prints that faded. And now with this, it's verbatim from the original. We do it on really nice paper, and it gives the customer now a lot better quality art that is exact representation of the original.
Well, how has he influenced your work?
It was the transition of being an illustrator. He did a lot of illustrations for books and magazines.
That's when I discovered
and that's right. And some of his work, his earlier works, is like a poster work,
yes.
And you really wouldn't recognize that work as far as his landscapes. The last years of his life, he spent entirely on landscapes. And the trees, I don't think only God has made a better tree than Maxwell Parrish. It just his trees are just magnificent.
Grady Byrd could probably make a good tree. I don't know about that. Well, I'm holding a book of some of your original works when you first started with leathernecks, and I'm amazed at how you've utilized that same technique within the Mother Teresa and the Pope John Paul. Would you care to tell us a little bit about that?
When I first started at Leatherneck, I was given the job to sports shorts. It's famous Marines that have made it in the sports world. And at first I started depicting the main figure and then a separate drawing of whatever they were doing in baseball, football, whatever. And I noticed I didn't like the composition. So from then on, I started putting both of them together with smaller figures within the main figure. And that kind of became my signature trademark.
Well, and you call it biographics.
Biographics.
Because it's a biography, really, of that person within your work.
I wanted to be able to just look at that drawing and be able to get a pretty close idea of the person.
Now, you had a mentor at Leathernecks, you said.
Yes, I did. There was such a great creative atmosphere there, and some of the older illustrators there was just so glad to share their techniques and everything. That's what it takes. It takes somebody that's not jealous of anybody in art and to be able to share their experience. And it was such a great learning process because we worked 2 months ahead of time, and the mistakes that I made 1 month, I could rectify the next month and look back on it and see how much I progressed. And it was so exciting to be able to do that when I first started. It was just a great atmosphere of creativity.
Do you remember the man?
It was Sergeant Joe Grimm,
yeah.
and I hope he's somewhere today, and I know he was a great artist too. And we had a great artist transition to Fowler at Leathernecks. There were some of the main top illustrators hanging on the wall when I walked into it. It was like a shrine. I said, I don't know if I'll ever be able to live up to this. It's just fascinating illustrators, a combat artist also.
It's so hard to believe that. I mean, you know, obviously your stature dictates the fact that you could serve in the Marine Corps. But when they saw a man that looks like you that was able to draw so delicately, what was that impression?
Well, I tell you the funny aspect of that, I had an art agent that got me interested in going down and doing the first presentation of oil rigs. So I went offshore about 50 miles, and they expected the Andy Warhol type, and when I showed up, they was not convinced I was an artist. They thought I was a safety inspector.
Oh, you're kidding.
So from then on, they were real safety conscious for a long time. Finally, I had to convince them that, no, I'm not here just for a safety inspection. I really am an artist. And they believed me. They woke me up at 4:30 in the morning to see the sunrise one morning. So I was able to work, you know, like that.
I actually get a little tongue-tied around Grady because he really is quite an overwhelming personality, and his energy is very powerful and strong. And even though his studio here is quite small, there's an entire world around here that none of us have witnessed before now. So we're going to come back and look a little more into that world right after this message. Thank you. And thank you for coming back to Art Beat. My guest today has been internationally acclaimed, award-winning artist Grady Byrd, and it is an honor to be in his presence. And I understand that the world is going to be seeing you as they cross the bridge.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
I only did that so I could point it out to my grandson, because that's the only reason I did it. But we had a contest, and some of the artwork is already up in Bay St. Louis, ready for people who want to see it. It's going to be a relief in all of the what was left over after the Katrina. It's going to depict every 10th mile. There's going to be a piece of artwork. I hope mine's where the little bench is, where you're resting and look at it too. But I'll be pleased with anywhere it's on there. I had to draw an outline of the painting here that you see for them to be able to cast that into the metal relief.
And how's that going to be attached? You were explaining that to me
Oh,
earlier.
it's going to, I can't believe, nobody's going to be able to steal it. It's going to be a boat all the way through about 2 feet of concrete.
Wow.
It's going to be really, really sturdy. And
so it's a bronze casting of your work?
It's a bronze casting of it.
And all the detail of Grady Byrd's...
It's going to be some of the detail, and I'm not going to be worried about how it comes out, because he's probably mad at me now for putting so much detail in my work, but I'll be pleased with anything that comes out. I think some of the artists that didn't enter here that was real talented was concerned that they wouldn't, you know, create their piece of art as they intended it to. But I think it's a shame, because I think it's a real honor to be able to do that. It'll be a permanent piece of artwork.
Oh, it truly is an honor. I mean, you're part of history, and I understand there's going to be a book.
Yes, there's a book that they're doing now. They've already done the book with the Bay St. Louis artists. Feature each artist in a little bio and example of their work in the book. I tell you, they're going all out with the arts on this, and I really commend the people in charge of doing it too.
It's so good to have all of that positive creativity just shown to the world as they're coming across our beautiful new bridges.
Hopefully they don't get in a wreck.
And hopefully they don't, and hopefully another storm does not take them away. But at least this way, with its cast in bronze, it will not be going away anymore.
Right.
But I understand that, you know, we've come into your home today to see your work. And obviously the world can't do that. But there's some places around the coast that your work is visible and people can buy it.
Yes, I'm very proud to be with the Grotto's Gallery.
Oh, wonderful.
I've been at some of the main galleries in the South, and I really wasn't interested in doing my artwork at any other gallery here, because it's a sad commentary that galleries just can't make money off of just arts, most of them. They have to do framing. So consequently, the framers just don't have time for the artist. But Romy Simpson and her husband that does the framing, she is a very passionate person about art and artists.
Yes, she is.
And when she puts on a show, everybody shows up, and she goes in a hole sometime, I think, with her entertainment and food. But she is just remarkable.
Wait a minute
what she's
now,
done.
IP helps her out on some of that. I have to tell you, IP is there for Romy, and we do provide at least the cake occasionally.
There you go. That's really good.
She's not always in the hole.
But her husband Butch and the lady that works there is Ava, is the only certified framers on the coast.
Wow.
And they do a fantastic job. And I joke with her that their framing keeps me in my hobby with their art. But she has some fabulous art there, and she's established the gallery as the one gallery on the coast, and I'm really proud of her. I don't think too many people know about me except the work that she did. So
you have to go to Negrados, and you have to take a look at Grady Byrd's work. Now, you have a captive audience there, Grady. What would you like to tell the folks about anything about you, your work, and where you're going with your work?
Well, I don't do incidental art. I don't do random art. I do significant art, things that are meaningful to me. And if the public likes it, fine. I'm real pleased with that. And I think I've had enough feedback that I'm getting through to the people that I have created and captured the soul of my subjects. And I'm most proud that I've elevated the black and white media to a certain extent, and also original technique that I developed.
Well, to say the least, that is humility at its highest form. I'm breathless being in his presence, and I urge you to go to Negrados or wherever you can catch a glimpse of Grady Byrd. If you see him along the streets of Ocean Springs, say hello, and who knows, you may end up being one of his subjects. But what a thrill it's been to be with an award-winning artist that has international claim right here in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we urge you to let us know what you'd like to see on Artbeat. So please go to wkfk.com, email us, and we will gladly take your suggestions, and hopefully we will see you next week right here on Artbeat.